Hello and welcome. My name is Adam White and I'm the host of the Edgy Pod. The Edgy Pod is a podcast series where we welcome on thought leaders and industry experts to talk about the creator economy, the video games industry, the metaverse, the development of communities and content creators during COVID times. And for today, we have a very, very special guest, and I'm not just saying that. Joe, thank you so much for coming today. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. You're welcome. It's really nice to see you.
It is nice to see you. It would be nice to give you a big hug properly, but we'll wait for that.
I've banned hugging from now on. I'm just going to be one of those no huggers. I like a double armed, four-armed grab.
Right, okay, cool. I like. That's great. Well, apart from double arm, forearm grabbing people, Joe is also an industry leader in the video games industry. Specifically, Joe is the CEO of ukie, so United Kingdom Interactive Entertainment, who are the trade body for the video games industry. They work with government and various stakeholders in the gaming space to ensure that the right people are speaking with the right people and that the industry is growing at the explosive rate that it continues to do so. Joe is also a lover of cats and has an OBE. Joe, what's an OBE?
My mother would have called it other buggers' efforts, but it's a Queen's honor. And I received mine for contribution to creative industries.
What's the next evolution of OBE? Is there one, or is that as high as
the next level up is CBE, and then the next level up is knighthood or damehood?
Joe, there's lots of things that we'd love to talk to you about today, but I think specifically we're going to talk about the impact that COVID has had on the video games industry, and creators play a massive role in the video games industry. So we're going to speak about those as well. We'll talk a little bit about diversity, and we might actually just kick it off with some talk about the metaverse. Maybe you could just explain a little bit what the metaverse is and the impact that it's going to have on the digital economy. This must be something that you see a lot in your day-to-day, or hear about at least.
It is, and it's actually just more so from other sectors outside the games industry looking in. They now are grabbing onto this term, the metaverse, which of course first appeared in Snow Crash, Neil Stephenson's book. And it really kind of is being used to describe the next iteration of what the internet is, and this connected, persistent space that we have for digital interactions, for identity, for all kinds of interactions. And I kind of, like, early last year, I described it to a lot of people, or I described Clubhouse as a version of a sort of audio metaverse. And it really is this kind of work in progress. And I don't think we'll ever kind of arrive at the metaverse. It's really just to, I think, describe and help people conceptualize this thing that we used to call the internet, which is now just in everyday life through our phones, through all sorts of different platforms. And I guess, you know, it's that kind of canvas for experiences, or that canvas for commerce, or that canvas for creativity. Like, I was a massive fan of Second Life back in the day, and it had its own economy, it had creators, and then it got destroyed by all the brands actually coming in and not doing it right.
Okay. How are content creators developing this new sort of economy?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you look at Roblox as another example of metaverse in the making, you know, that's a great example of a canvas which is about creativity. It is about, you know, young people in particular creating their own games, creating their own experiences, creating their own entertainment, and letting people, or sharing that with people for a price. You know, they're making money in there. But, you know, it is kind of, I think the key for metaverses is, or the metaverse is about creativity. You know, it underlines everything we do in video games, and as well as in the entertainment industry, full stop. You know, for me, platforms like Twitch have been incredibly important to discover new personalities and new people who are going to entertain me, or new kind of communities that I want to feel connected to.
Can you describe your experience of, you know, what has happened to the games industry, and how have creators played a role in facilitating, you know, a post-COVID paradigm?
If we look at 2020, so we did a report that we released in July of last year called Playing On, and we consulted with our membership, and, you know, really the games industry was very resilient during the pandemic and during the initial stages of the pandemic and lockdown. because we're a digital industry. So it's not without difficulties, but largely studios continue to operate at about 90 to 100% productivity. It was also the year of the next generation of consoles, and that brought with it big titles as well. So we did see, obviously, people gravitating towards games. People like us who love and know games know that it's a social connector. But there are a lot of people who might not have played games for a while, or might not have realized that actually games are incredibly social, can be, and will connect you with others. So, we saw some really interesting research using telemetry data in games from Oxford Internet Institute that was released in November, and it showed that playing games had a really positive relationship to positive mental well-being during lockdown.
So for someone who understands the games industry so much, personally benefits from creators in their communities, and often avails of products and services based on their recommendation. I know I'm kind of jumping there, but I imagine that's the case because I know how many games you play. How can a brand engage with Joe Twist and do it properly via content creators?
I think it's, people can sniff this kind of thing out when it's not authentic, and I think it is about authenticity at the end of the day. And for brands really to understand that community is everything in the games industry. And, kind of influencers are almost like these sort of community leaders, but I think it really is about letting the influencer or the content creator do it their way. You can't tell them what to do. It has to be in their way. They're the ones who understand their community, their audience, what they like, what they don't like, what feels good, what feels wrong. And you have to deal with that. You are not in control anymore. There's also a real difference. When I talk to brands, a lot of brands don't know Twitch. And I think, or Discord. And I think, Discord and Twitch go hand in hand, and so do other community-based platforms. And I think you've got to understand the dynamics of those particular platforms, because Twitch is very different to YouTube. You don't do the same things on YouTube as you do on Twitch. And, you need to take time and trust people in your team as well as a brand who want to or are already ingrained in those communities. Because when I first went onto Twitch and then they said they were going to raiding to me sounded like a negative thing. It's not, it's a really positive thing. I went into some community and it was just like emotes flying everywhere. There was shit all over the screen. I didn't know what the hell was going on. But that is exactly that kind of point about the personality of the influencer. And once your kind of senses and your sort of head gets around that literacy of that particular community, then you start to go with it, and it's very complex, and it's not easy. It's not a one size fits all either.
Yeah, and I'm sure taking your first steps into the gaming space as a brand can be pretty scary, because you're going to see all those emotes flying on the screen. And I guess one of the things that we help to do at Edge is to help the brand decipher the data behind that content. How did it perform? What's a concurrent view? What's an engagement? What's a share? What's a like? And what are each of those bits of social interactivity worth? Joe, thank you very much. I really appreciate you taking the time to answer those questions. I do have one more before you go. You mentioned that the new consoles are out and there's some big titles that are dropping this year. Is there anything in particular that you're excited for in terms of games?
Yeah, and I can't remember its name, and that's really bad.
Left 4 Dead, that sort of.
Yeah. There's another, I think, was it Everfall? I can't remember the name of it. It's another one coming out next year. Well,
thank you everyone for tuning into the Edgy Pod today. We've talked about the metaverse, the role that content creators play in connecting communities in a post-COVID paradigm. We've talked about what OBE stands for and Joe's recommended gaming tips. Joe, it's always so lovely to speak with you. Thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
See you guys soon and stay edgy.